Hi! Hey! Hi! It's me, your Void. It's time for another way too big TBR. It's spooky season, so everyone and their mom is making a spooky themed readathon thingamathing thing, and I cannot decide which one to participate. Except I did. At this point, October is so oversaturated with readathons. I go with a first come, first serve kind of policy, if you could call it that. So I will not be participating in Spookopoly this year simply because, sorry Becca, but last minute decision isn't going to cut it. No. What I will be doing instead is I will semi-participate in Gothtober. I say semi-participate because there are a couple of prompts where I haven't picked out a book so far simply because I could not make it spooky and my brain refuses to let me read non-spooky books in October. Which is, again, hilarious considering one book that is on my TBR. More on that later. And the other readathon I am participating in is Scarathon by Jess, which is a new thing that happened this year, and it is aimed at making you uncomfortable, and let me tell you, having 20 books on a TBR that amount to over 5,000 pages, that's making me uncomfortable. So because of the way that Scarathon works, A, that is going to be my focus for October, and B, we are talking hard TBR and hopefuls this month, because I read so many books in the last 2 months, I have to put on the brakes before I run headfirst into a reading slump. I don't want that. So we are going to take things easier this month with the explicit potential of radical expansion. That's the word I was looking for. That's not all. I will also be working on a project called Read the Beats, also by Jess, and I have to read a book for Kirsty's Patreon book club. Thankfully, I was able to finagle all of these books onto my Scarathon TBR and onto my Gothtober TBR, so things kind of work out. And these will be the ones that I focus on, because again, Scarathon has 20 different prompts, but we are working with a 5x5 bingo board. And I specifically scienced this so that the 4 mandatory books I have to read fit into one column, specifically the E column. So hopefully all I need to do is get a single scare. The books that I will be reading this month are as follows. We start with the book club pig with the book club pick from Kirsty's Patreon book club, which is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. When I saw that this is the pick for the book club works over 3 months and October is the last month we can read this, I immediately jumped on it because this is also one of the favorite books of James, who I consider a good friend at this point, simply because I annoy him every Saturday. I don't know anything about Little Thieves except that James loves it and that it is a retelling of a not so famous fairy tale. I forgot what it's called. I think it has something to do with geese. I don't quite know. I forgot. It says on the back, once upon a time there was a beautiful kind princess and her wicked maid. One day the wicked maid stole the princess's face and with it her name, her betrothed, everything. The princess had to toil away as a servant, while her maid lived like a queen. When the maid was caught, she died for her crimes, and the princess lived happily ever after. Or that is how the story has been told. Now it's time to hear the other side of the story. Fairy tale crimes? I'm here for it. This is the Patreon book club pig from Kirsty's Patreon, and it fulfills the prompt for a solid read for the Scarathon. This is the only book that I could not fit into the E scare. This is for the S scare, and the solid prompt wants me to read something that has 500 pages or more. This has exactly 500 pages without the author's note at the end. That's the first book on my TBR. The second book on my TBR is a book that I have to finish. I already started it, and it's only on my TBR because I haven't finished it yet, but book 2 is on my TBR, and that is Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver, which is the famously accidental cannibalism, not so accidental cannibalism trigger warning, serial killer, comedy, romance. I am 48% through with this, and then I just randomly stopped because the month changed and I had to read every other book on the planet. But I was very much entertained by this. I already hit the not so accidental cannibalism scene. I have fun with this. I snort laughed so much already. But yeah, I have to finish this book because on my Read the Beats TBR, provided by Jess, is Lark, also by Brynne Weaver, which is the second book in the series where we follow the brother and the best friend of the main characters of Butcher and Blackbird. So I kind of need to finish this in order to read this. This is two serial killers falling in love. This is a contract killer falling in love with someone else. I don't know if she's also in the business of killing people, but she at least doesn't have a problem with people in the business of killing people. In this one, we have the moral question of auto-cannibalism. I sense a theme. This is on my Read the Beats TBR, and therefore also on my October TBR, and for the Scarathon, it fits the energy prompt. Energy is a book that breaks a reading slump, and the amounts of laughs I had reading Butcher and Blackbird, I'm pretty sure Leather and Lark could break a reading slump. But yeah, Leather and Lark, and because this is here, I also need to finish Butcher and Blackbird. Another Read the Beats, pick book, TBR, is A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson, which I think is hilarious, because if you have watched Jess's Read the Beats with my song recommendations, which, by the way, you should watch, it's amazing, she also picked The Dowry of Blood for her Read the Beats, based on my song. For very different reasons. We picked the same book. It's very different songs, but we both picked the same read, which I think is hilarious. But yeah, after serial killers, we now come to relationship issues between Dracula and his brides. I am looking forward to reading this. I am such a sucker for a bit of more flowery writing, and I read one or two of the letters in here already because they were at the back of another book that I really liked, and I was like, this sounds interesting, and then I bought the book. In this one, what does it say on the back? On the back it says, "This is my last love letter to you, though some would call it a confession. Saved from the brink of death by a mysterious stranger, Constanta is transformed from a medieval peasant into a bride fit for an undying king. But when Dracula draws a cunning aristocrat and a starving artist into his web of passion and deceit, Constanta realizes that her beloved is capable of terrible things. Finding comfort in the arms of her rival consorts, she begins to unravel their husband's darkest secret. With the lives of everyone she loves on the line, Constanta will have to choose between her own freedom and her love for her husband. But bonds forged by blood can only be broken by death." Spooky. And we all know I love a good vampire book. Vampires! So, yeah. This one fulfills the Scarathon prompt of exorcise, which I also completely forgot the prompt for. Wait. Okay, exercise was tagged as a mind-bending read, and since I don't expect some Shutter Island shenanigans in here, but just the back and forth between who do you love and like toxic relationships and stuff. I classify it as a mind-bending read. And the last book for the Read the Beats part of this TBR is my only non-spooky read. My brain would refuse to pick any other book for this song, given it's not a very spooky song. But I am talking about The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. That's not spooky. That's just a high fantasy based on Norse mythology, as far as I'm aware. What does it say on the back? The greatest sagas are written in blood. And then we get an ad text. Why can't people just print the fucking blurb on the fucking back of a fucking book, man? Oh nice, this book just doesn't have a blurb. Yeah, I could read you an interview with John Gwynne. I guess the greatest sagas are written in blood, but don't come with a blurb. All I know is that this is inspired by Norse mythology, and it is written by John Gwynne, and book 3 is coming out real soon, and everyone was gushing about the cover. Yay? Question mark? I think this takes place in a world where the gods have fought a war not too long ago, and now they are all dead. I think, but Please do not quote me on that. For the Scarathon, this fulfills the prompt of eerie, and eerie is a scary or intimidating read. Again, this is not scary, but it's a high fantasy written by Gwynne, and it is 500 pages long. That's kinda intimidating. I also have yet to find a Norse mythology that I really actively vibe with, so yeah. Now, if you want to know why I picked these books specifically, let's put some brackets around Butcher and Blackbird. But if you want to know why I specifically picked these three, kinda need to wait until I publish my Read the Beats vlog, but look out for that. There will be a Read the Beats vlog where I read these books for very specific reasons. If you want to know how to play Read the Beats, check out Jess's channel where she made an announcement video, and it's not that complicated, but just go and watch it. This tiny, very handable stack of books. This is my TBR for this month. This is what I'm definitely going to read. This I can handle. That's not even half of my possible TBR. Because I also have a stack of hopefuls. With this TBR that I already showed you, I don't get a full scare. I'm missing one. I have With a Dowry of Blood, Leather and Lark, a non-reading prompt, and Shadow of the Gods. I almost have the E-scare. Read number 5 to get that scare would be House of Slaughter, Volume 1 by James Tynion. This is part of the Slaughterverse, but this is the backstory of some other characters in the series. This one specifically follows my love Aaron and his boyfriend Butcher, and this is fulfilling the prompt of Evening, which wants to be read entirely at night. It's a comic, it's a quick read, we can read that in dark, right? This is also my salvation when it comes to Gothtober. I haven't talked about Gothtober yet, so let's do it now. Gothtober is a beautiful little thing where you actually play a game that determines the prompts that you get. I have a little video of that here. As you can see, playing this game generated the prompts that I need to fulfill. Here comes the kicker. Gothtober is actually really nice, and you can double up as many prompts as you want to. If you figure out a single book that can fulfill all of these prompts, you're golden. I didn't quite do that, but House of Slaughter Volume 1 hits 6 different prompts I got for my Gothtober. 6. This one fulfills the prompt of having disability rap in it, because Aaron's boyfriend has a disability. We have BIPOC rap in here. Both Aaron and Butcher are people of color. We have LGBTQ rap. Aaron and Butcher are boyfriends. It fulfills the character has a specific skill prompt, because Aaron and Butcher have been trained since they were children to hunt monsters that can only be seen by children and people of the order that raised them. That's a very specific skill, if you ask me. It also has the sentient inanimate object prompt in here. I stretch it a bit because technically it's the monsters housed in little plushies that are the animated part of the inanimate object, but I count it because they are tied to these plushies, and the plushies themselves can't do shit. It's just a plushie. It just happens to have a monster living inside of it. So I count it as the sentient inanimate object. And again, with the BIPOC prompt, this also fulfills the prompt of being a horror novel, or in this case comic, with a black main character. Also, because I mentioned it before, I'm using Leather and Lark for the Dark Desires prompt that I got, because I don't know about you, but people who earn their money with killing is kind of dark, and these books are actually pretty smutty, and that is definitely fulfilling the desire part. I am missing books for the interstellar / parallel worlds / portal travel prompt. I do have books that fulfill the prompt, they are just not spooky enough for my brain to accept it, and with everything else that I have to read in this month, I'm just not prioritizing hitting that prompt. Also inspired by a gothic classic, I guess we can take a Dowry of Blood for that. given that this is based on Dracula. So I guess I fulfill that. And the last prompt I have issues with is ancestry as a key theme. I asked James if ancestry plays an important role in Little Thieves, and he said, yeah, but not necessarily a key element, so jury's a lot on that, I guess. But yeah, I'm not focusing too hard on my Gothtober TBR. I just want to get done with the Scarathon. So that's all I have for the Gothtober for y'all. And with this one, I will get the E scare. How many points that is, I don't know. I have to do the math on that. All of that is what I will focus on. I get one scare, I get my points for it. Everything else is optional because I just need a break. So we will just run through these books with little to no explanation because I may or may not read them. I don't know. I really want to take the pressure off for October. So, in the S category, we have Seeing Ghosts. I'm going to read Dead and Buried by T.K. Aldrich. For the Stark prompt, I'm going to read The Nearwitch by V.E. Schwab. For Sweat, I will read Brutal Volume 2 by Koga and Ryo Izawa. For Solid, I will read Little Thieves. For the Snuggle prompt, I'm probably just going to wrap myself in my blanket and turn into a little tiny burrito. It's a non-reading prompt, whatever. For the C column, we go with Caught in the Act, Percy and Joe in the Horrendous Haunted Heist of Horrors. Love that title, it's a mouthful. Then we have Camera at the Night Pick and non-reading prompt. For Cabin, we are going to read Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig, which is the second book in the Shepherd King duology. I really want to read this before the end of the year to finish a series, and this has a very isolated setting. Okay, cool, moving on. Then for the Candy Cane, we need a retelling, and that is going to be King of Nothing, another smutty Peter Pan retelling. And then we have Contaminate, which wants me to read something that has to do with like zombie apocalypse, dystopian setting, whatever, and I forgot to pick up the read. Let me just quickly do that. For that, I picked Shinigami Doctor Volume 2. It's not necessarily zombies, but people turn into plant people, and their thoughts are pollen in the air, like when they die, their last thoughts just poof! This is kind of a dystopian setting because it takes place in the future where no other plants other than this deadly Shinigami plant exist. That's dystopian. That's sad. I'm a plant dad myself. That is way too much explanation for what I'm doing here. The A column! I hate the A column. Thanks for nothing, Jazz. The first prompt is Animosity. Read from an author that you didn't like before, and for that I chose to read Sin on a Dark Night by Rhiannon Fudge. I read a novella by them before, and oh my god, I was so now I'm going to read another novella, hoping it's not Moving on. Acid, Neon Cover, Sinner by Sierra Simone. Not necessarily spooky, but we are taking the Lord's name in vain. I can live with that. Then we have A Break. You have to read something for that, but it's supposed to be something that you can just read, something easy to read. House of Slaughter Volume 2! It's another comic. I love the Slaughterverse. Cool, moving on. Apple. Eat a seasonal snack. I think I'm going to eat an apple. I really like apples. Attack. Read something that features a war or something, and I'm going with something in the Full Murder Hobo series. R column. Romp. Probably going to play vampire. I really like that game, and I still have to eat the weird lady in the hospital. That sounded so wrong. Next prompt. Reaper. Read something that features death or a reaper. I'm going to read Death Reads a Book. Death Gets a Book. Sorry. It's a book about death getting a book. Then reality. Why do you make me read non-fiction, Jess? Why are you making me read non-fiction? Anyways, I'm probably going to read a book about the iconic markers of ancient Greek art. It's somewhere up there. I'm too lazy to pick that one up. Rent. Something you borrowed. And for that, I'm going to have a flick through The Resurrectionist by E.B. Hudspeth. A friend of mine gave this to me a while ago. Excuse me. It's borrowed, and it's kind of spooky because it's like cryptid zoology, and this book pretends to be real. Yay. And then we have Risk! I forgot what the prompt for Risk is, but Family Business is fulfilling it. It's by Jonathan Sims, not the head archivist of the Magnus Institute in London, but by the actual guy who wrote the Magnus Archives. He also writes books. This is his second one. Yay. And that's it. Those are all the books that I will read and the books that I may read in October. And suddenly things look way less tame than I want them to be. It fills out the whole frame. Oh my god, it is so heavy. And this is not even a visual representation of all the books on this TBR, because there are so many ebooks on here as well. But yeah, the math says that all of this ends up to be 20 books, or 21 with Butcher and Blackbird, and it's 4,180 pages. I have the math right there, and I actually added the note in all caps, what the actual fuck. That is why I have made the executive decision to prioritize amongst this mountain of literature, and I will be focusing on my 3 Read the Beats books. I will be focusing on the book club book, and then I will read House of Slaughter Volume 1 to hit 6 different prompts for Gothtober, and everything else, everything beyond that is an option. This is an announcement to you, the viewers, and a declaration to me, to future me. I do not need to read all of these books. You are allowed to take a break. Okay, cool. Sit. Should you never hear from me ever again, you can be sure that this pile of books fell on me and I died due to massive trauma. But yeah, look forward to the Read the Beats vlog that I'm going to make. I'm also thinking about making a spoiler-filled little Thieves vlog if I can remember to pick up the camera. And other than that, that's it from me. If you made it to the end, leave a pumpkin emoji in the comments, if there is such a thing as a pumpkin emoji. You might also leave a ghost emoji. Anything spooky. Leave anything spooky down in the comment section. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!